call the Affordable Housing Trust meeting Thursday, May 20th to order. We need to establish the attendees by roll call. I can't put, I'm on my phone, I apologize. Chris, if you could call up people's names, seeing that you can see them all on your laptop. Just respond if you're here in the affirmative.
Dan Kusher.
Here.
Eric Swenson.
Here.
Kurt Williams.
Here.
Bruce Spinney.
Here.
And Ed Prisby is connecting to audio. Ed Prisby, can you confirm you're here?
I can.
Oh, thank you.
Okay, and also in attendance this evening is Kathleen O'Donnell. And that's a good segue into the first action item we have. So I've done a fair amount of searching, and for legal counsel, Kathleen came highly recommended. I asked her here tonight to give her a brief introduction. Everybody should have her resume. What I'm looking to do is looking for the trust to retain her as our independent counsel to handle some of the legal aspects of our developments and projects that we have in order, and also to provide some guidance. She has a pretty in-depth knowledge of the Commonwealth's 40B statute. So I'm going to give her a couple minutes to introduce herself, and then if anybody has any questions, we can just wait till after she provides an introduces herself to us. Kathleen, please take it away.
Thanks. I'll be very brief. I'm a real estate attorney. Actually, I live in Milton, but I've practiced throughout the Commonwealth. I represent about 15 affordable housing trusts in various capacities, some more active than others, and assist with projects that are going to be friendly 40Bs done by RFPs that, people that have been chosen by the trust for development of affordable housing. Used to work for Copeland and Page, which was town council at one point in Grafton. So I am familiar with the town. I've been there for many 40B hearings at night with the zoning board. And that would be about it.
And does anybody have any questions? Chris, if you can help me if anybody has their hand raised, or this is a small meeting, so feel free to just chime in. Okay, well, that was easy. I do need a motion directing me to sign a retaining agreement with Kathleen, if somebody could.
Ruth, I have a quick question. So for this, would what's kind of like the ballpark range of money we're thinking for like the 25 Worcester Street project for this type of services?
My hourly rate for municipal clients is $150 an hour. I try to be pretty efficient with time representing, knowing that, municipalities and trusts have pretty tight budgets. It's hard to say because it kind of depends upon what you end up doing. If you're going to issue an RFP for a developer, I would be reviewing that. Essentially probably handling a transaction, purchase and sale agreement, something like that, and eventually a closing. So I would be figuring that'd be probably something in the $1,000, $1,500 range, probably. I'm doing that now for another town, and that's sort of what the ballpark figure has been for that.
I would just add in $150 an hour, which is fairly inexpensive in the grand scheme of things. Bringing somebody with some expert opinion on some of the legal matters, which we may arise during this process. It would be very, very helpful to have our own counsel looking at it. So everybody is aware of the citizens petition that was put before the town. Now it will be passed over or rather ruled out of order. We did get that opinion from the town's general counsel But we should be aware of those type of things going on and making sure we're ahead of anything that can be thrown at this particular project.
Yeah. Interesting.
Any other questions?
So if any of the other trust members have like specific legal questions for her, will we have like some sort of a like a informal meeting between us just to form some questions, like put them together as a file to hand her rather than having to go to her directly individually, like that we could just hand her like a list of questions that we might individually have.
What I'd like to do is perhaps once a month when we get back into a regular monthly meeting that's scheduled for everybody is to have her present and then to have any questions there. Outside of that, just directing a question to the chair directly is not a bad way to extend it over to her and then to discern that information back to everybody. Technically speaking, we do not have staff. So like the select board would go through the town administrator typically, and sometimes they reach out directly. In this particular situation, just to keep it orderly, having everything flow through the chairmanship and then having a once a month meeting where everybody can collaborate would be ideal.
Makes sense.
And Mr. Chairman, staff, the planning department is happy to help collate questions and liaise as needed, but I agree that the chairman would be appropriate as well. So.
To make this easier, I know we're going to be back to regular meetings in the middle of June, but a motion for to direct the chair to sign a retainer agreement would be sufficient.
Mr. Chair, I move the board direct you to sign the retainer agreement.
With Kathleen O'Donnell.
Kathleen. No, with your mother. Yes, with Kathleen O'Donnell.
I know, just be specific for the record.
Second,
Do I hear a second?
second,
Any discussion? By roll call, Dan Kusher,
aye.
Ed Prisby,
Aye.
Kurt.
Aye.
Elizabeth Haynes,
Aye.
Eric Swenson.
Aye.
And I apologize, am I missing anybody?
You.
Oh, Bruce Spinney, aye. I declare the motion carried. Thank you very much, Kathleen.
Thank you. We look forward to meeting you all guys in person. Thank you.
Thanks.
The next item we have for action item was to review the agreement with Jen Goldson. I did not get it done in time to have it on this meeting. And it would probably be good now that we have retained counsel for them to review the scope of services and to go over the contract. So I'm going to table that to our next meeting. The third bit we have is the associate position for the administrative functions. So the planning office is going to get an assistant town planner. We discussed this at the last meeting. What I didn't realize back then was that Finance Committee was looking for an administrative assistant to replace Susan Fiacco, who will be leaving shortly. So I met with Evan and Mark Haddad this morning and to see if there is some position that we could both share. Now, the reason why I would consider that for this particular position is because it's purely administrative functions. So Finance Committee needs a very specific set of things out of that position. We would just be in addition to those things. We were considering something right around the 19-hour a week mark, no benefits, but we can go out and find somebody a little bit more tailored to that specific like 40B aspect of what we're doing. So they're a little bit more cognizant of real estate and the stuff that we're going to be doing moving forward. I just had that meeting this morning and I will pass along the material that came from that meeting to everybody. We'll probably have to have another meeting to actually consider this, but before I went too far down this rabbit hole, I wanted to give everybody's impression of at least sharing service with Finance Committee for some savings. I I will be passing around, which you guys might have gotten today, is how Groton does their trust administrative position. So it has a job description. Dan Kusher and I also were working on some scope as well. I will kind of merge those together and then pass those along as well. Does anybody have any other considerations for that position? Does it sound like a good idea for us to, or for me to move forward with to set the rest of the stuff up?
I think it sounds good.
Yeah, sounds good to me. The Finance Committee, the idea for that was mentioned last night at our meeting. Mark had brought it up, and it seemed like people there were open to hearing more about it. So it sounded good.
Okay. Either way, we're going to have to move forward with it. Just as we move back into, indoor meetings, somebody to take meeting minutes and to coordinate all of that aspect of it. Also, somebody to pay bills and to do some of the legwork and the logistic work that we're going to need as these projects move forward. Permitting, liaison with developers, or handling the RP, the actual logistics of the RP. And then something that we could consider if we had a position that was dedicated to this was handling the lottery, which is something they do there as well, and a lot of communities do as well. And it's something we've never considered in the past, but we've never really applied this level of sophistication and this scope of project before. So it's something we should really be looking at. Does anybody else have anything on this matter for me? It doesn't require a vote. I just want people to be aware of what I'm doing, just to make sure I'm not wasting my time doing it.
Sounds good.
Great. Let's see, meeting minutes. I know Dan had sent one. Dan, if you don't mind, I'll entertain a motion to for the I just don't know the date. I don't have it in front of me.
So I think there might have been 3 since the last meeting we had. Let me double check. So yeah, so I think it's November 3rd, 2019, May 14th, 2020, and April 5th, 2021. Or sorry, April 15th, 2021.
So your motion would be to those 3 particular meeting minutes as drafted?
Yes, so moved.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Chime in as loud as you can. All right, hearing none. All those in favor, starting with the roll call. Dan Kusher,
Aye.
Ed Prisby.
Aye.
Elizabeth Haynes,
Aye.
Eric Swenson,
Aye.
Kurt.
Aye.
And Bruce Spinney is an aye. Perfect. Just in discussion, before we talk about this briefly, a couple things that everybody should be aware of. June 15th, our meetings will go back to being live again, which probably it's a good time to find a dedicated day once a month to have one meeting that we know we have to get to and to plan around it. And then the other aspect of that, there will still be some other meetings that we probably will need to have while we're on the fly. Coordinating those is going to be a little bit more difficult. So once we get off Zoom, I'll give everybody a little bit more of a heads up on some of these things to make it a little bit easier for everybody to get to. But I appreciate everybody logging on tonight. I'm trying to get the trust into a position where it can have as much of the organizational structure in place before we get too far with one of these projects and it becomes unwieldy to try to backfill those positions and to keep everything moving smoothly. The other correspondence we had was from the clerk's office and Cindy Ide, just to make sure that all our officers and our terms were updated correctly on the website. They should be now, but go ahead and take a look at the trust membership. One thing we did find out that Dan had researched is that all terms for trust members are 2 years. So we have 4 that are up for renewal on June 30th. So seeing that that's almost a little over a month away, I want everybody to send me an email if your term limit is up to make sure we know who wants to stay on. And we do want some type of, with 4 going, that's a quorum of the board. So what concerns me is if there's a massive overhaul while we're in the middle of a project, it becomes a little bit difficult. So why doesn't everybody just send me something individually and let me know, and then we'll forward everything along to the select board. They did change their policy, so they will be a little bit more cognizant of reappointments and going through a more elaborate process. I'm sure they'll, the select board's office will be reaching out to everybody as well, but just from my behalf, moving forward, just to make sure I'm aware of everything that's going on. The chairperson's role in public correspondence. So of course, I'm getting a lot of correspondence from the 25 Worcester Street project. I was asked in a couple situations to come to individual meetings and things of that nature. I'm hesitant to do some of those things without the trust position because there's a level of confidence that I want to have with the trust. I don't want to be doing things on my own without you folks being aware. I do have a good in-depth knowledge of everything that's going on. So I think in some of these situations, it would be helpful for me to be in a room with a few of those folks just to go over some of the things that are like major concerns. But I wanted you to be aware that I'm doing them. So I was invited to a meeting with some of the neighborhood folks who wanted to, or Ron Warwick wanted to have us, or have me anyways, participate in. And I told them that I wanted to make sure that the trust was aware, just so I'm not, I want to keep the confidence as best I can. Of course, I'll take that meeting and come back and report just like I've done in every other situation thus far. But before I go in the room, I wanted to make sure that I had at least permission to engage in some of those conversations. Does anybody else have any objections, some comments, concerns for me?
In the as far as you're saying, in the interest of transparency, maybe one other member of the trust could go with you. Just, I mean, so not necessarily the same person everyone, but just have one person that goes if you have a private meeting with anybody. That way, there's at least one other member of the trust there.
That sounds like a good idea. That's it. As long as I can get coordinated properly. Once we get back on a regular meeting schedule, it would be nice to have people just come to the actual meeting and participate a little bit. It's a little easier to do than over Zoom, albeit it's a lot more difficult to get people actually to come out. But any other concerns?
Just, could you just, maybe I'm just not clear on the nature of the meeting with the neighborhood folks. So I don't know, maybe just a little more specifics on what.
Sure. So I don't know the specifics of what we're actually going to talk about. My guess would be that they want to go over some of the plans and some of the ideas that they have in a more informal session. I would be more than happy to discuss them in an actual meeting when we go back live.
Yeah.
The reason why I haven't is because we're not quite there yet. We're just going through concepts and we're not making decisions yet. So I think perhaps some of the neighborhood was a little bit impatient with the pace. But unfortunately, a lot of this, especially on the engineering time and the coordination time, is taking a lot of time. And we don't have, somebody dedicated to just doing our stuff. So I was reached out to directly on it from a couple different folks, just to kind of pick my brain on questions and to introduce their ideas, which I don't mind doing. I just don't want to do a lot of it, and I don't want you guys unaware of what I'm doing. So,
okay,
if the direction of the trust is to let's keep it let's keep this thing formal, then I would just reach back out and say, look, here's our next meeting. Please come. We're going to start to introduce a little bit more public comments into our concept design work. But it might be helpful.
Yeah, I don't see any harm in it. Like you said, as long as it's we don't want to be doing things in place of the meetings, of our meetings, right, of the formal meetings, but in terms of just communication, I don't see any problem with it.
I think in some degree, people are very intimidated by the public process as well. So it may be helpful to do this just to alleviate some of the concerns in a more informal manner where people are more comfortable to express their opinion.
Sure.
So.
Okay.
No, I don't think I'm going to be entering a room where a lot of people are going to be yelling at me. But I'm a big boy. I can handle myself, I suppose. Does anybody else have anything?
I don't think you're going to go to something like that and alleviate concern. I think you're going to go to something like that and you're going to be talked at. And that's fine. You're also probably going to be put in an uncomfortable position of, making assurances and promises that you probably can't at this point. So, there's one of two ways you can handle it. You can say, yes, I'll go and I'll listen politely and take the concerns back to the board in a formal meeting. Or you wait until, we retain Jen Goldson and we do some formal organized outreach. Half a dozen of one thing, six of another. The last thing we want to do is appear like we're unwilling to entertain neighborhood suggestions. But, it's been my experience that no good deed goes unpunished. You're going to show up there and you're going to be pressed to, make assurances and make promises, and you can't. So, it's your time. I don't care if you do it, but just be aware that's probably what's going to happen.
I was
I would,
just gonna say the same thing. It seems like you're going to, I can't imagine that they're not going to try to get you to make commitments in these meetings. So I actually, it does kind of concern me that there will be ideas that they try to get you to commit to in these private meetings, and there's no like public record of that conversation happening. And like, I almost feel like there's going to be people claiming that something was said or agreed to that wasn't, that I kind of feel like this is the reason we have public meetings. So that it's not that I don't like trust you to have these conversations with people in the community, but I just don't feel like I feel like it's going to lead to situations where some people came away with one idea and some people come away with another idea, and then it's just going to lead to more confusion and more tension.
Yep, I can see that direction as well, which is.
That's why I was thinking, like, if we had a second, it wouldn't be just like he said versus she said. There would be a second person to say, like, look, I was also there and this is what I heard.
Yeah, it's not a bad idea. I would go with either suggestion. If as long as we can coordinate the time, and it may be that we can't coordinate a time anyways, and it just falls into a regular meeting. But it's up to you folks. So I'm just going to straw poll then, just so we can move on and get to the adjournment. But Elizabeth, what do you think?
Specifically,
You're willing to do these more informal sessions as long as what I'm looking for is everybody's position. So if you're willing to let me do this, as long as I bring along another trust member, that would be okay with me. And then I'm just going to go around.
Yeah, I kind of like the idea of having two people go, and I have a pretty flexible schedule, so I only work 3 days a week, so I'm pretty open.
Eric.
Sorry, my audio cut out like right before this. What was the question?
Whether or not I should be allowed to have some more informal discussions with some of the people that have reached out directly.
Yeah, initially I was all for it, but I do think Dan makes a good point that if we're showing up to these meetings, and honestly, it doesn't even matter in my mind if there's more than one person. The meeting takes place, and then the people who are not on the trust can say whatever they want happened at that meeting. And the trust is not allowed to say anything until we have a public meeting or a scheduled meeting, right? So that puts us behind the 8 ball. And, you know, I don't want to cast any aspersions on motives and stuff, but it's a lot easier for them to spread, anybody outside of the trust to spread misinformation. So
Fair enough.
due to the sensitivity on this, I'm actually inclined to say I don't think anybody should meet with these groups outside of a public hearing.
And Dan, I assume you echo those concerns?
I mean, I guess except for that last little bit, I feel like we maybe shouldn't be telling people as individuals who they can meet with, but I think us giving you sort of an informal authority to talk on behalf of the trust, I think that's too much. But I think I think individuals talking with people is not necessarily something I want to be restricting. But yeah, I think like if you want to talk to them as just a member of the trust, I don't really see why not. But I feel like it shouldn't be something where we've all kind of agreed that you're the one who's going to represent us at these meetings.
Fair enough. Ed, do you have any more concerns?
Look, I'm not going to tell you not to meet with constituents. I just, we got to handle this in the way that's best for the establishment of affordable housing. And already so far, what I've seen with this particular group of people is a dramatic amount of misinformation being put into the public. Defamation of my name, personally, and an attempt to take land that we were gifted last year and put it back into conservation. So should this be a priority right now of yours? I don't think so. But, if you feel like you can walk into this room, listen to them and say, thank you very much for your opinion and walk out the door and come bring it to the trust, that's fine. I wouldn't, but it's up to you.
All right. Kurt, anything?
Yeah, I mean, I think I'm thinking along the same lines as Ed with this, that it's unless, there would, the kind of rules of engagement, so to speak, with going into this meeting would sort of be that, I'm here to listen to you, and I can't take any formal action. I can't make any promises about what it is that we are and are not going to do. We're still very early in the process. I have a feeling if it does become a two-way conversation, you're going to be saying a lot of the same things sort of over and over again. It may help them to get some things off their chest, but I don't know how productive it's going to be.
All right. So I'm just going to go ahead and decline. And then I will try to do a better job of coordinating the public meeting side of this, and perhaps bringing in counsel and consultant will help with some of these informative sessions perhaps at the beginning of the meeting. I'll take suggestions as we go, but I know everybody's got other meetings to get to. So I will send an email out to everybody for a June meeting. And then think about the days, think about whether you want to stay on the trust, if you're one of the 4 that's up. And then if you are interested, let me know the day of the week that's best for the people that are remaining. We'll try to coordinate as best we can. Having 4 people turn over on a committee is a little bit unwieldy, but we got to figure out something. So unless anybody else has anything real quick, entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
And then by roll call, Eric.
Aye.
Kurt.
Aye.
Dan.
Aye.
I'm gonna take that as an aye.
Aye. Sorry about that.
Elizabeth,
Aye.
Ed,
Aye.
and Bruce is an aye. Thank you, everybody, for coming out. Appreciate it. I'll get the rest of this stuff in order, and we'll see everybody in a couple weeks.